Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So last week I filmed my large pan makeup palette collection video, and it included everything that, well, roughly had about 8 pans or more in it. But that video was very long and I have a lot more eyeshadow still to talk about. So this video is going to be my smaller panned eyeshadow palettes. There's some blush in there too. And anything I've either forgotten or picked up within the last week or so. Like last time, I'll start off with the brands that I have the most of and work my way down to the brands that I only have one palette from. I have also recently done a declutter, so this is not as much as I had even a month ago, but I just had to make more room in my collection and I wanted to get rid of more so the drugstore stuff, so a lot of the stuff is quite pared down. Anyway, let's get into it. The first one that I have is 3 of these old Maybelline quads, and I don't even know if they make these anymore. The first one that I have is Irresistibly Ivy, and I bought it predominantly for this really bright green shade here. It's got a few gold sparkles in it, and it just really drew me to this quad. In general, I find that these quads actually perform really, really well, although they do tend to be quite shimmery. The next one I have is Smoky Cinnamon, and this was a limited edition release 4 years ago, something like that. It was in one of their fall collections. And the other one also from that same fall collection is Olive Martini. I was really drawn to this fall collection, so I ended up picking up 2 of them. This one has a really gorgeous, it's like a blue-brown pigment, similar to Max Club. Alright, moving right along to Wet n Wild. Sadly, these are the only ones I really have anymore. I have the Comfort Zone quad, which I'm not sure if I included in the last video. Anyway, it's not on my desk right now. I do have the Comfort Zone quad, and I had this entire, it was like a Venice Beach collection or something like that at one point, but I ended up giving it away just because the colors, I used them once and then it just didn't, you know, I just didn't reach for it. So the one I definitely kept is called California Roll. Oh, because the colors in this are gorgeous. I mean, these oranges and reds right on the side were an absolute seal the deal kind of, I'm purchasing this right away kind of thing. Gorgeous to wear. I love the colors, and I wish that they would keep coming out with quads that are, 6 pans that are this interesting. The other one I kept from Wet n Wild is this blue and purple one, which is called Embrace Obscurity. I don't reach for this a ton, but I love the colors enough that I wanted to keep it, so I did. Alright, on to the more expensive side of things. I have 2 Charlotte Tilbury quads, and the first one I picked up is the Vintage Vamp because, as I've already stated multiple times, I really like warm red tones. So these 2 shades were the warmest tones that seem to be in any of her palettes. I will say I think these shades are practically identical. I don't think that they should have put something so similar in a quad, but I mean, I use them interchangeably because I love the shadows anyway. And the other quad I have is the Rebel by Charlotte Tilbury. This is all green tones, kind of emerald, and then obviously one like champagne shade. I chose it because I like green tones, but I also really like the name because it kind of reminded me of a website I used to have when I was younger, so kind of a good memory of that. Next up are 2 face palettes from QUO, and the first one I have is called Contouring Craze, and it was from their winter holiday release. They say contour, and you can use them for contour. Frankly, I use them for bronzer because that's just what I prefer doing. And there is a bit of a matte highlight shade here, but all 3 shades are matte. And the next one I have from QUO is just so much fun to look at. It's like this tie-dye pattern with a little bit of holographic thrown in. It's just gorgeous to look at. And this is called the QUO Prismatic Face Palette in Moonwalk. You've got a blush, a highlight, and a bronzer, and all 3 colors work excellent together. This was limited edition with their spring collection of this year, so you might still be able to find it in stores, but the summer collection has already launched, so I'm not sure if they've replaced like the spring stuff with their summer ones. Anyway, something to watch out for. Alright, the next one is a Sephora collection item, and I forgot to include in my last one because it is actually an 8 pan, and this is the Wonderful Dreams palette that opens like this. This was in their holiday 2015 collection, and there's, I don't use this a ton, but I've kept it because there's something about the shades in here and the packaging that I find really adorable. So I kind of held on to it for whatever reason. Anyway, I can't bear to part with it yet. So this is a few shimmers, quite a few mattes. It's actually quite impressive. It's a good little handy palette. And one that I just got and couldn't even put in my other video is what I'm wearing right now, and that is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. I mean, yep. Oranges, reds, neutrals. This is just really gorgeous, and I've never owned an Anastasia palette before, so I'm excited to play around with it. Alright, next up is Vegas Lights by Makeup Geek. I am planning on doing a Makeup Geek eyeshadow collection at some point, but that's going to be like my other palette collection video. It's going to be very, very long, so bear with me. That might be coming in like a month or so. Anyway, Vegas Lights was a limited edition launch, maybe last year, could have been the year before. It was limited edition, but I think they've released every single one of these shades as singles now, so you really didn't need to get the palette back in the day. Anyway, it has Casino, Sin City, Roulette, Mirage, Desert Sands, and Bada Bing. A quad that I have from Soap & Glory is their lid stuff in What's Nude. This is a really basic palette that can be really handy if you just want to make like 1 or 2 looks out of something and go. I picked this up when I was in the UK on a layover to Prague. I kind of went crazy at Boots and was like, give me everything I can't get in Canada. So I picked up Soap & Glory makeup because we just can't get that here. Anyway, I do really love this. It's really handy to have. The highlight shade works perfectly for me. This is a great transition shade. And this is kind of like a satin taupe type shade, and then you got a bit of a darker brown. It just doesn't have a really dark brown to deepen things up, but man, this thing is handy. All right, the next one is a blush palette from Hourglass, and that does wonders with the ring light, doesn't it? This was limited edition. This is the this is the Ambient Lighting Blush Palette. And I didn't really know it was limited edition until very recently when somebody, it was Zoe, I believe, broke her palette and can't get her hands on it anymore. Yeah, this was a great deal if you got it when they launched. 2014, something like that. What I do really like about this palette is that the tones are quite different. You've got more of like a magenta pink here, an orange coral here, and this one's more like, I call it like Tarte's Exposed Blush. It's called Mood Exposure in this palette, but it's very similar in tone. It's like a rosy taupe type shade. And I think it's great that there's such variety in a 3-pan, because sometimes, I mean, like with one of the Charlotte Tilbury quads, 2 of the shadows are practically identical. So I thought this was not only a great deal, but the pigmentation and just wearing these as blushes is absolutely gorgeous. All right, next up I have a 3-pan blush palette from Sleek, and this is their Lace blush palette. I got this in a Superdrug in England several years ago, and I just really love the tones in this one. Next up is one of my favorite blush palettes lately, and that is the Smashbox LA Lights Blush and Highlight Palette in the shade Culver City Coral. Again, I really like these coral shades, so I just gravitate towards them whenever I have the opportunity to get one of them. I love both of these shades. I think I said it before, I just interchange them based on my mood, and then I do use this one more as like a blush because it just doesn't really work as a strong enough highlighter on me, but all of 3 of these shades are gorgeous. All right, the last 2 are relatively new to me, so I haven't played around with them enough. The first one is the Tart Skin Twinkle Lighting Palette, and this has 3 highlighting shades in here. There is Sunlight, Filtered Light, and Moonlight. I've only swatched them, so I can't really tell you how they play out on the skin, but I can say that this one is the strangest texture. It feels like no powder that I've ever felt before. It's kind of like paper. Anyway, I need to play around with that because I am planning on posting a review on the Rainforest of the Sea collection at some point. And the very last palette I have is one by Stila, and this is the Sunset Serenade Convertible Color Dual Lip and Cheek Palette. So this really fits in with the whole sunset theme. It's kind of like corals that go a bit deeper and more earth toned. I haven't actually played with the convertible colors before, and I've only swatched this to date, so I'm going to be curious to see how this plays out on my skin, because I know so many people have recommended the convertible colors to me over the years, and I just never got around to playing with them until now. Alright, that's it. That concludes my pre-made makeup palette collection. I do have my MAC palettes and my Makeup Geek collection palettes that I am planning on doing videos on in the future, but I thought I wanted to get all my like pre-made palettes out of the way. So I hope you've enjoyed watching my collection. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!